You're good to go.
Good. All right, awesome. Well, howdy, guys, and welcome. My name is Miss Tiara Reeves, and I actually serve as one of the regional advisors for Texas A&M. You'll see that I'm kind of placed in an office, and my office is actually located here locally in Dallas. I'm located in the Dallas-Fort Worth Prospective Student Center, which is just located right over in the Arlington Highlands area. So again, howdy. Howdy is our greeting for Texas A&M University, so you'll hear us say it pretty often anytime you're with this, but know that once you've heard it, we're really excited to meet. Today, we're just going to kind of share a little bit of information about the university, about how to get that application process started. A part of my role is really to kind of help our students get from 12th grade to becoming the 12th man. So I'm really going to kind of just be here pretty much to kind of help you all throughout that process. Can everybody see my screen okay? Thumbs up. Okay, awesome. So a little bit about the university. Texas A&M is the oldest public institutions in the state of Texas. We were founded in 1876. So when you hear about some of the traditions and some of the things that go on at Texas A&M, know that they date way, way back. But we want to talk a little bit more about just kind of like some of the things that we excel at. We are going to be considered one of the largest public institutions in the state of Texas. Our student body is right about 69,000. But the great thing about it is once students get to right about their junior year, our student to faculty ratio drops down to right about that 20-1. So you'll notice that once you're really kind of taking the courses specific to your major, you're really going to get more of that personalized feel, and it won't feel like such a large institution. We're considered one of the best values that students are really going to kind of get their money's worth at the institution. So we are pretty when it comes to the cost of attendance as far as your tuition and fees, but the value of the network. So what students get once they graduate, some of the resources that you'll have that are available to you are really what's going to kind of give you that best bang for your buck. And then whenever we're not currently under a pandemic, we're actually encouraging most of our students to go and study abroad. So one of the best things about the institution is we know that America is great and there's lots of things that you can learn here, but how much more well-versed will you be when you go out into the workforce, when you really have that ability to kind of gain a global perspective. So we're always encouraging our students to go and study abroad. We have scholarships available. Some of our majors actually require for you to go and study abroad. So it's one of those things that we really promote with students. I'm pretty jealous. I never took advantage of it during college. So I always try to make sure that every student that I personally work with, that I push it for you guys, because getting to go and do a study abroad where you get to go and see the world for not nearly as much as if you're just going for a vacation is a great thing. So you'll earn college credit and then also have the opportunity to see different things in the world. And so kind of just jumping straight into it, now that we have more of you on here, we'll go ahead and talk a little bit about the majors. Being that we are such a large institution, we actually offer over 130 different degree programs. So I know that the print on here is actually pretty small, but it's fine. So whether you're wanting to major in aerospace engineering, agricultural studies, or if you think you want to study zoology, we likely have a major for you. So there are just a handful of majors that are not listed on this list. One of them is going to be neuroscience. We're actually one of the few universities in the state of Texas and in the nation that offers neuroscience as a bachelor's degree. We offer it both from a theoretical and from like more of a science and clinical standpoint. So if you are definitely interested in like the psychological neuroscience field, then know that you don't just have to wait to study that for your master's degree. We can kind of start that experience as an undergrad. We also have a large number of professional schools ranging from the College of Medicine to our dental program, even to being one of the only schools in the state that has a veterinarian program. One thing that we want to talk about with the professional schools is, let's say you know maybe from a young age that you've always wanted to be a doctor. Your undergraduate degree is not going to be in pre-medicine. No one is able to sit as a pre-professional. You will be required to declare another degree program. If you're wanting to pursue a professional program, we do have a professional school advising office that's going to help you. So the professional school advising, along with your academic advisor in the college, is going to help you really plan out that undergraduate career. So they're going to talk about some of the research opportunities that you maybe want to take advantage of, the types of classes that you need. So our goal is to make sure that you're taking all of the classes that you need to complete your undergraduate degree program, but then also everything that you'll need to be competitive once you're applying to your program of choice. And then so kind of just jumping in straight into our application requirements. Our application requirements at Texas A&M are pretty simple. You'll first start off with an application. We actually accept Apply Texas or the coalition. So it's a pretty simple process for you. Has anyone already started the application process? Have you created an account yet? Where are you guys at in that process?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, awesome. And how's that been going? Have you already completed the app or you just started?
I've done everything so far. I'm just doing my essay. So like after that, would it take me to where like you pay for the application fee once I like submit the essay?
Yes, we
Okay.
will.
Okay, cool.
So great, you kind of segue into that. So yeah, we'll start off with the admissions application. We're just going to ask some of your biographical information, educational information. If you're a student that maybe needs a little bit more of that hands-on help with the app, be sure to reach out to myself or one of the other advisors in our Dallas office, and we'd be more than happy to kind of help you out with that process. Along with the admissions application, you are going to be required to submit SAA. Has anybody looked at the prompts for SAA?
Yes.
Yes, and what's the prompt?
Is it like what opportunities or challenges have like in your that have you experienced throughout your high school career that like have shaped you to who you are today?
Yes, that's actually exactly what it is. So it just kind of tells, we're going to ask you, tell us about yourself. Keep in mind that we don't know anything about you unless you put it on the application. So we don't know any of the talents or awards or great things that you've done in high school. We're not sure what type of community service that you've done. We don't know if you maybe weren't able to participate in any extracurricular activities because you needed to work or to take care of your family. So the application and the essay is really that place where you're going to get to put all of that information. On the essay, a couple tips for you. Don't think about what you think we want to read. We're not looking for overly creative topics. We're not looking for some like the next best fiction story. Remember, it's all about you and what's shaped you. Another tip is make sure that you're answering the prompt. So not only do we want for you to tell us about your background, about how you've grown up, but we also want to we want for you to bring it full circle and tell us how it shaped you as a person. How has it changed your mindset? How did it make you better? If it did make you better, how did it make you worse? But just kind of really make sure that you're answering the question to tell us what and then kind of how that's shaped you along the way. The application fee is something that you'll get at the end of the application. We do also you'll be able to self-identify if you qualify for an application fee waiver. Underneath the custom questions section of the application, there's a few questions that you'll answer. If you qualify for an SAT or ACT fee waiver or anything like that, then you would just select those appropriately, and then it'll allow you to move on without paying physically for the app fee. In addition to your admissions application, your essay, and your app fee, you'll also be required to submit the self-reported academic record, which basically is just an electronic system where you're going to get to input your grades. So you do still have to have an official copy of your transcript in front of you, but you'll just log onto that system and then go in and enter your grades. We'll start to communicate with you about 2 to 3 business days after you've submitted your application, but you can start on the self-reported academic record at any time. Once I kind of finish up the presentation, I will throw the link to it in the chat. So for those of you that plan to get started on it pretty soon, you can go ahead and start that process. And then lastly, we'll want to talk about your SAT or your ACT test scores. Now, I know that you see that it's optional for the 2021 cycle, which is just going to be in response to the pandemic. We understand that for many of you, getting into a testing center might be pretty difficult at this point. So we wanted to kind of take some pressure off and just allow for you to choose to include them on your application or choose not to. Know that if you do decide to not include your test scores, you are not going to be at any disadvantage at all. We're just going to review your other academic factors, taking into consideration like your high school, your rigor, different things like that. Does anybody have questions on our application requirements? Good? Okay. Awesome. So this is just kind of to give you all an idea on the applications. Remember, it's applytexas.org or the My Coalition. Keep in mind that especially if you're utilizing Apply Texas, you only really have to work hard that one time. Most institutions, especially public institutions in the state, accept that application. And once you've completed one application, if you just go to the My Account dashboard, you'll be able to copy the information from one application over into another. So once you go through like all of, instead of having to enter in the information for every single school you're going to choose to apply to, you really just have to do it that one time, and then you'll be able to continue to copy it into other apps. Okay. And then we'll go ahead and kind of just start to take a look at the review process. If we have any questions so far, you guys can either just unmute yourselves or just pop it in the chat, and I'll be sure to answer them. So as far as top 10%, we do automatically accept you. So as long as you attend a recognized public school, which Lamar High School is one of them, and you're ranked in the top 10% at the time of application, and you submit all of your items by the deadline, then you are going to be automatically admissible to Texas A&M. Providing that there is still space in your first choice major, then that's also going to be, you're also going to be placed into that desired major. The only exception is going to be if you are applying to any of our majors underneath the College of Engineering, and we'll talk about that review process in just a sec. One thing to know about the top 10%, you're going to report that ranking on your self-reported academic record. One of the questions that we'll ask you at the beginning is, does your high school rank? And then you'll just select yes or no. If your high school does rank, then on your transcript, you'll see that there's a numerical rank. Maybe you are number 10 out of 590. So you'll go ahead and put that information in there. If it is deemed that that is, of course, the top 10%, then you're also going to need to upload an official copy of your high school transcript. Ms. Post actually has received that information on how to do that. And so we can assist you with the process with uploading your transcript, just so we can verify your numerical ranking. Now, a lot of students are usually concerned that if they're not in the top 10%, that they're not going to be admissible to Texas A&M, and that's not the case at all. So top 10% is just our automatic admissions criteria. All of our other students are going to be reviewed holistically. When we say holistically, we do mean absolutely. We're going to take into account everything that you tell us on the application. So we're going to look at your high school academic record. You're going to tell us on the application and your transcript, it lets us know what classes have you been taking? Have you challenged yourself? If you did really well in one subject, maybe freshman and sophomore year, did you decide to sign up for an advanced placement course? So did you sign up for AP or IB? Did you take your classes dual credit? We're going to see, did you really try to challenge yourself throughout high school? If you did submit your SAT or ACT test scores and they would benefit you in the process, then we'll take a look at them. If they won't benefit you, then we'll actually just go ahead and dismiss them and just continue to look at the other factors that are going to advantage you. We do require for students to be on that 4x4 plan, which means that you've taken 4 years of English, 4 years of science, 2 years of the same foreign language. 99% of the students that we work with that are attending public high schools do not have to worry about this at all. It's a state law, so it's actually something that your counselor is taking into consideration, but just keep this in mind as you're making any changes possibly to your senior year schedule, that we do require for students to be on that 4x4 plan. So in addition to your academic achievement, we're also going to factor in some things that you've maybe done outside of the classroom. What type of extracurricular activities did you do? Now, I know that COVID-19, especially that spring semester, many of you had a lot of things planned. You were going to knock out the rest of your community service hours to get all these things done before college application times. And then, of course, the pandemic happened, and so it just threw things off. On the application, you can put in, if you're needing to kind of estimate you can project hours that you expected to earn. So you can include that information on there, but we want to know, what else did you do to give back to the community? What types of talents, awards, honors? Basically, we're trying to figure out, what did you do outside of the classroom? So whether you were just a member, whether you were elected to an organization, you'll get to put in any employment if you're a student that's chosen to work. So you'll get to put all of that information on your application. And then, of course, we're going to consider if you've had any unique opportunities, challenges, or hardships, and how resourceful were you with the resources that have been provided to you. So as far as also consider the unique opportunities and challenges, you have a couple of opportunities to include that information on the application. Some students prefer to talk about it in their essay, and that's perfectly fine. Other students, maybe you have another topic that you plan to talk about on your essay, but you also want for us to know about a situation that has maybe happened. Then on the custom question section of the application, there is space provided to students where you'll get to put in, and the prompt will ask you, is there anything else that you would like for us to consider in the review process? And then that's going to be the space where you'll get to tell us anything else that you maybe did not already have space for. Some of the things that really kind of impact students is maybe you lost, maybe there was changes to your family dynamic. So sometimes we've had parents that split up and they really that shift in the family really impacted your grades. Maybe someone close to you passed away and that really kind of shook you academically. And so it took you a while to bounce back. So that's not an exhaustive list, but it's just a few examples of some of the things that you can talk about if they impacted you. Now, if nothing impacted you in your grades at all, then you are more than welcome to leave it blank. But do be sure that you just go through each one of the custom questions. We have created space for COVID. So if you don't want to talk about COVID in your essay, you don't have to. But let's say you had a parent that was unemployed, and so maybe you decided to get a job to help your family. That's information that you can include, but you want to specifically include that information on your COVID-19 questions. Does anybody have questions before we move on about top 10% or the holistic review process? Okay, awesome. And so I know earlier we talked a little bit about that the College of Engineering was slightly different, and that is because all of our applicants, regardless of if they are admissible via top 10% or not, everybody is going to be reviewed holistically if they're wanting to pursue a College of Engineering. Our College of Engineering majors houses many of our majors, all engineering related. So whether it's aerospace engineering, biomedical engineering, also computer science is going to be a major listed underneath that college. Their review process looks slightly different. So we have an early action deadline. Now it's non-binding. So, and all it means is that you're just going to receive your decision earlier. So if students that are specifically applying to the College of Engineering, if they fully complete their admissions application by October 15th, then they'll tend to find out their decision around round 1, which is sometime in mid-December. If for whatever reason you miss the October 15th deadline, that's perfectly fine. As long as you complete your admissions file by December 1st, then you'll receive your decision with round 2. You're not going to, it doesn't hurt or help a student to meet the early action deadline. It just allows for you to receive that decision a lot faster. You will also you also have an additional shoebox question, and it's just going to ask, what have you done that has shaped your interest, that has shaped or guided your interest in engineering? So whether that was a teacher, maybe you have a parent that went to A&M, or you have a parent that went, that's been an engineer, or they're in the engineering field, and that's kind of sparked your interest. So you just want to tell us, why do you want to be an engineer, and what have you done throughout high school, or like unique opportunities, different things like that. It's a pretty short essay. It's only 40 lines, which works out to be about 250 to 300 words. So nothing too long. Think of it as like two paragraphs. Okay. Then we just want to talk briefly about the deadlines. So I know that we're in the midst of kind of just some different times, but you guys do still want to try to plan out senior year as best as you can. So starting on August 1st is when our application opened. There are some students that have already submitted, but actually our ideal time frame for you to submit an application is actually going to be late September or early October. That's regardless of the major that you're wanting to gain at Tech or to pursue at Texas A&M, that tends to be the sweet spot for students. It's early enough that you'll hear back pretty quickly about your decision, but then also it gives you plenty of time to work on other items. So applying to college is only one part. The next portion of attending college is going to be trying to figure out how to fund that experience. And so it makes it a lot easier if you can go ahead and knock out those applications and then move on to some of the next things. If you are a procrastinator, then you have up until December 1st to submit that admissions and scholarship application. December 15th is our FAFSA priority deadline, which I would highly encourage. By applying by if you apply by the priority deadline, then it does just increase the amount of possibly monies that are available to you. And it definitely helps the process. And remember, with the FAFSA, you can send it to up to 10 schools at one time. So even if you still have multiple, maybe 3 or 5 other institutions that you're looking at, you can still submit them all to us by that December 15th deadline. And then deadlines that will come more into play in the spring semester are just going to be our May 1st confirmation deadline, and then August 15th, which those are things that we'll definitely just kind of talk about a lot more during the spring semester. And so as far as our decisions, top 10% finds out on a rolling basis. So traditionally about 3 to 4 weeks after their file is complete, if they pop onto their applicant portal, or if they wait a little while and check their mail, then they'll see that their decision is complete. If you're in the holistic review process, then it could take you a little bit longer. It's still going to be received on a rolling basis, but sometimes holistic review applicants, they tend to start to hear back usually sometime early spring. So those decisions will maybe start rolling out late December, and we try to have out all of our decisions by no later than mid-March. We do have an applicant information system, an applicant information system portal where you'll be able to go and monitor your application. So maybe you're up and you're just trying to double check, have we received your application yet? Maybe you're a student that's trying to remember, did you do the scholarship application portion? So you can go in at any time on the applicant portal and just check where we are in the process. If you're a top 10% student, then this is also that same portal where you're going to be able to upload your files. Do we have any questions up until now? Okay, we'll keep on going. And this is what the applicant portal looks like. It's pretty simple. Again, 2 to 3 business days right about after you submit an application, the university will send you an email and will let you know, like, hey, we've now received your application. Here is the number that you need in order to activate your net ID. And then from there, you'll be able to monitor your application the entire process. This is relatively what it looks like. We've made a few changes this year, but it's pretty simple. We're going to tell you which documents are required for admissions. We'll tell you which ones are optional. So maybe you're a student that wants to go ahead and submit your file, but you are going to take the SAT or ACT, and we're going to receive those test scores, let's say in November or even those December test scores. Then this is where you'll be able to see if we've received them. And then this is also where all of our decisions post. And so if students are not admitted via top 10% or underneath the holistic review process, sometimes they may still attend Texas A&M, just their starting point looks different. In a perfect world, everyone hopes that they get admitted to their dream university, but that's sometimes not always the case, especially for Texas A&M, because we have a pretty competitive applicant pool. So sometimes students are fully admitted to the university, which means that providing that there was still space in their first or second choice major, then we place them in there. Other times we maybe have to offer them a pathway. A pathway just means that your starting point looks a little different, but you still get that end result. The end result is still to attend Texas A&M, still earn that Aggie ring, get your Aggie degree, but just the starting point of that journey will look a little different. Some students are admitted to our blend team option, which is a co-enrollment between Blend College and Texas A&M. So those students actually look just like Texas A&M students. The only difference is that they take a couple of classes at Blend College down the street, while also being enrolled in one or two Texas A&M classes. We also have PSA, which is going to be one of our other pretty large programs. And so when we think about our system schools, I know that in the past, when you've actually been able to go to college fairs, you've maybe seen Prairie View A&M or Tarleton. You've seen Texas A&M Commerce or Texas A&M Corpus Christi, and you're trying to figure out how we're all connected. We're all underneath the Texas A&M system. Now, we are going to be the main university, College Station. However, our other system schools underneath this program, it allows for students that qualify to attend one of those system schools for a year. Which school will just depend on your applicant file. Students that qualify for multiple schools will see their options listed, but you're going to attend that system school for 1 year. So your whole freshman year is going to be at one of the system schools. You'll have a set amount of courses that you need to take, you're on a set degree path, and then a upon successful completion of that program, you'll then be able to transition over your sophomore year to actually attending College Station. So it's a really great option. And then we also have our Higher Education Center at McAllen, as well as our Aggie Gateway to Success, or our Gateway program. The Gateway program takes place over the summer. So about a month and a half right before school starts, those students will go down to College Station. They start taking some of their summer coursework. Upon successful completion of that program, then they're fully admitted for the fall semester. So all in all, it's a very simple process. All of these pathways that we briefly talked about, you don't have to try to memorize any of them. You won't have to intentionally apply for any of them. These are just options that could possibly be offered to you should you complete the application and maybe not qualify for full admissions. These are programs that we'll fully explain to you and to your family if you guys have questions. So don't worry if that kind of like blew over your head. It's fine, we'll take care of it later. And then we also have our Galveston campus. So we have some students that are super excited about attending Texas A&M, and they tell us, hey, I want to study marine biology. Well, if you've ever been to College Station, you'll know that outside of a few lakes, there's no water. We don't have a Gulf. We don't have any cool oceans surrounding us in College Station for you to be able to study. However, we do have our Texas A&M Galveston campus. And so they're going to still be they're still the Aggies. We just call them actually our Sea Aggies. And Galveston, our Galveston campus houses all of our maritime related programs. So if you did want to study something, whether it was ocean engineering or marine biology, you're excited about being on the water, know that you can still have that same dream of attending Texas A&M. You just attend it in Galveston. They have slightly different deadlines, but know that all in all, they're still Aggies and their process is pretty much the exact same. So you can go to tamug.edu if you think that you're someone that's wanting to pursue those programs. This is also a good option if you're maybe open to ocean or maritime related programs, but you're really thinking that you might be overwhelmed at Texas A&M. There's a smaller student body. They actually have a little less than 3,000 students on campus. So it still gives you that same Texas A&M tradition, the camaraderie of the university, but just on a little bit of a smaller scale. And you get a beach, which is super cool. Okay. And then we also have some other engineering pathways. We won't go into them a lot. The College of Engineering is one of the largest colleges. We do not have the space to admit absolutely every single applicant that applies to Texas A&M and specifically to our engineering. So the same way that we talked about those other admissions pathways, engineering will talk about the offers different pathways as well. Some students are going to take their first year of engineering courses at McAllen or at Galveston. They may be a part of our engineering academy at Glen Bryant or do the PSA. Same thing happens with these. Your freshman year looks a little bit different, but traditionally after about a year, for some students, maybe a year and a half, they're ready to make that transition over to College Station. And so we want to talk a little bit just kind of about the cost of attendance. So when people think large university, they automatically assume huge price tags. Now you'll see that $30,000 is right about our sticker price, but the good thing is it's our overloaded sticker price. So reality is most of our students don't necessarily spend this, but of course it's always better to overplan and to be delightfully surprised by a smaller bill than the opposite. So our tuition and fees is pretty comparable to most institutions in the state of Texas. So we're right about that 11,000 mark for our students that are going to be taking 15 hours in the fall and 15 hours in the spring, which is right about 5 classes or so. Our housing and meals, you see that number for that. We do not have a housing requirement for students, which means that freshmen are not required to live on campus. There's only a handful of our students that are required to live on campus. That means that you have an option there. And then of course, we picked one of our more expensive meal plans and one of our more expensive housing options. So we definitely have different variations of affordability with your housing options, so you can pick which one you think will work best for you. And then of course, books and supplies, your travel, personal expenses. These are just kind of more things to remind your parents that just because you're moving out of their house doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to move out of their pockets. So you're still going to need to pay for books, whether that's technology. You may have to purchase some of your textbooks or software. Travel, no one spends $2,500 unless you're going back and forth from College Station absolutely every single day. The more average price point is actually a lot lower, but we just want for you to make sure that you're accounting for to be able to travel from College Station to go back home, back and forth to Dallas. And then same thing with your personal expenses. You're going to want to purchase something. You want to get your hair done. You want to go to the movies with your friends. So you'll still spend those items, but those that specific tax, or excuse me, those specific brackets are actually pretty variable, just kind of depending on what type of student you are. And so we have two ways to pay for that. The first way is always going to be through financial aid, and that's going to be with you completing the free application for federal student aid or FAFSA. It is going to open up on October 1st, and it's going to ask you for that 2 years prior tax information. So that means that we're going to be asking for your parents' 2019 tax information. The only thing that you really need to pay attention to is you want to make sure that you're applying for financial aid the year that you're going to be attending college. So you guys are going to be our fall 2020-21 applicants. So you're going to be completing the 2021-2022 FAFSA application. There is a tool on there when you're completing it that's called the IRS data retrieval tool. And what it does is it helps us, it will link to the IRS information, and it helps to input in the information directly as it was reported on the taxes. We recommend that your parents and you all utilize that. However, it's not a requirement. And then we also have scholarships. Scholarships are going to be the number one thing that we want to talk about. FAFSA, how much your parents have made throughout the years, that's not something that you can control, but you can control how aggressive you are in applying for scholarships and what you put on your scholarship applications. If you all are completing the Apply Texas, you are able to submit your admissions application separate from your scholarship application. Please do not do that because you're going to forget. How do I know you're going to forget? Because I've been doing this for a very long time and people forget. So please make sure that when you're submitting your admissions application, you go ahead and just take a few more minutes. I promise it max maybe takes 20-30 minutes extra to go ahead and submit the scholarship portion. Once you've done that, you've automatically applied you've already put yourself in consideration for all of our scholarships at Texas A&M. Sometimes we award students scholarships based on their academics. We do have quite a few of our need-based scholarships, and then a lot of them we're going to take into account a little bit of everything. So academics, talents, leadership, they're more like that holistic based scholarship. You'll see a few of the different departments that will consider you for scholarships. Again, that key component is you just have to submit by December 1st. If you're completing the coalition application, you do have to do it all at one time. If you submit on the coalition application without submitting the scholarship application, there's no way for you to go back in. You only have the option to go back into and submit the scholarship section on Apply Texas. Questions on that part? Good. Okay. Awesome. And so specifically, we want to talk a little bit about the Regents Scholarship. Regents is going to be one of our need-based scholarships, and it's a great way for us to really increase both our first generation population and our low income students. We understand that if you're both first gen and you are in more of that lower income tax bracket, you're disadvantaged in a couple of different ways. Maybe your family does not know the college going process. You're the first person in your family to go. So you're trying to figure out, how do I get that process started? And then furthermore, you're trying to figure out, how do we fund that experience? You want to go to college, you're admissible, but you just aren't exactly sure as far as how you're going to make this work. The Regents Scholarship, the one thing you want to know about it is that we're going to actually pull your parents' educational information on the application. So on the application, there is a section where we're going to ask for your parents' educational information. Please make sure that you select something on there, whether that's yes or no. Only you guys know what that situation is. If you're maybe not close with one of your parents and so you're not exactly sure, remember that unknown doesn't tell us anything. So anytime you put unknown on either your family income level or on your parents' educational level, that automatically knocks you out of the pre-qualification round, because we kind of assume that unknown means no. So make sure that you put something on there. So if you're maybe not as close with like your mom or your dad, make sure that you're actually selecting yes, some college, when in doubt, just use what your best guess is, which is not unknown. It is pretty limited. And so traditionally, the only students that do receive the Regent scholarships are going to be those that submit their FAFSA by that priority deadline of December 15th. And it's going to be awarded on a first come, first served basis, but there's no other criteria that we're looking for. So you don't really have to have a minimum GPA. There's not a minimum amount of community service hours that you have to use. It's just going to be for our first generation, low income, first come, first served scholarships. And then we talked a little bit about housing. Just know that it isn't required. There's a multitude of dorms. There's over 6 to 10 different options for students to choose from, various prices. The only students that are required to live on campus are going to be students that are applying for, that are in the honors program. If you are a Regent scholar, then you're going to live on campus. And then if you participate in our Corps of Cadets, those are going to be some of our only groups that have to live on campus. But for everyone else, they'll have an option. You cannot apply for housing until you've been accepted to the university. So this is something that we take care of a little bit later. And then university honors, a lot of our students automatically, when you think honors, you think that your classes are going to be harder, but not necessarily. They're just going to challenge you in a slightly different way. To pursue an honors program curriculum in college is pretty cool. The opportunities that they have both in their classes and then of course after graduation, it's definitely a pro for students that are interested. So if you are interested on the Apply Texas application, in the custom questions, it's going to ask you, are you interested in honors? If you select yes, then you'll automatically via email receive that honors application to complete it. They are also test optional, which means that anyone can apply for honors even without their test scores. And then we have over 1,100 different student organizations. So when our students, of course, aren't focused on their studies, then our expectation is that they're going to be active outside of the classroom. You'll have, again, over 1,100 different options for you. That QR code is active. So if you guys want to take a screenshot of it, or if you're on your phone now, you want to go ahead and hover over it, you'll be able to see a full listing of all of the types of organizations that we have. Some of them are going to be service-based. Others of them may be Greek life. We may have some just based upon interest, whether that's braiding. I know that there's a kickboxing club. There's all kinds of different things for our students to do. And then, of course, being at organizations, we want to talk a little bit about the largest organization. One of the Texas A&M was initially founded as a military institution. We are by no means that now, but our Corps of Cadets are still very much a very present and visible aspect of some of that history at Texas A&M. Common myth is that a lot of people think that if you join the Corps of Cadets that you automatically have to commission into the military, and that's not the case at all. Only about 45% or so of them will choose to commission on. Everyone else will just choose to have the leadership certificate. It is an ROTC type of program. So if you're concerned about gaining the freshman 15, if you think that you're going to go crazy by not having your parents with you and you feel like you need a little bit of structure, the Corps of Cadets can really kind of help with that process. They help ensure that our students are, of course, being fantastic students. So they're going to make sure that you're in the classroom, that you're studying, but they're also going to help you develop some of those leadership skills that you can use after you graduate. Okay, and so if you guys have additional questions about Texas A&M, whether they're admissions related questions or about our student organizations or anything like that, you're more than welcome to subscribe to AggieBound. If you guys scan over the QR code, or if in your web browser you just type in tx.ag/Lamar99, then that'll take you to the sign in. You guys are more than welcome to go ahead and sign in. We'll know that you were here, and then that's also a way for us to kind of start that communication. Does anybody have questions over that information we've covered?
Could we ask specific questions over like majors?
Mm-hmm.